On October 19th, the president of Russia announced martial law in Russia for the first time since the end of Great Patriotic War, a big term in Russia. That's what we call the Eastern Front of World War II in the period of time from June 22nd, 1941 to May 9th, 1945. And that's the only history bit I'm having in this video, because today we're gonna talk about martial law in Russia, what does it mean for regular Russian people, and how does Russian state media is actually portraying this very issue.
В Донецкой Народной Республике, Луганской Народной Республике, а также в Херсонской и Запорожской областях мною подписан указ о введении военного положения в этих 4 субъектах Российской Федерации.
Hi, my name is Niki. I'm a regular guy coming from Russia. I just wanted to remind you that on my channel I have a variety of content, updates on Russia that you're watching right now, but also lifestyle and travel videos from the countries I visit. Recently I left Russia and traveled to Turkey, right now I'm staying in Thailand, so expect some videos from here as well. I hope you'll enjoy it. So, on October 19th, Mr. Putin announced the martial law, and that actually sounded like partial martial law, just like partial mobilization he announced a month ago. Right after announcing the martial law, I started to see a lot of videos popping up on YouTube, basically explaining what does this martial law means and so on. I saw that many people were commenting about like, what the fuck, it's not a martial law in Russia, it's actually was applied to the occupied territories of Ukraine, and I understand why people say so, because the martial law was fully applied only to 4 regions, basically to Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics and to Zaporozhye and Kherson regions. And here you certainly can say that these territories are occupied territories of Ukraine, which are certainly occupied territories of Ukraine, but inside Russia things look different. These regions are considered to be a part of Russia inside Russia itself. Basically, when I see Russian news, they use the term new territories to describe these places. And because of that, Russian president was able to refer to Russian constitution, what a lovely word, to set this martial law. It's fully applied to those 4 regions and partially applied to the entire territory of Russia. Just recently we got some magical new terms that were described in the latest decrees. Security regime, average level of response, level of high readiness and level of basic readiness, whatever it means. Now a bit more details. There are 2 decrees related to this martial law. In the first decree, Vladimir Putin ordered to set martial law in 4 regions and noticed then when it's necessary, that might be partially applied to the entire territory of Russia. I think the second part is like really important, because basically now we have a situation when our constitutional rights in Russia might be compromised on legal basis. It's not like we didn't have any troubles with our human rights and freedoms before, but now it will be like more legally to censor stuff and do other stuff that Russian government wants to do. I really like the ways that Google Translate translates a part of that document. It basically says that during the period of martial law, citizens enjoy all the human and civil rights and freedoms established by the Constitution of the Russian Federation, with the exemption of the rights and freedoms, the restriction of which is established by the federal constitutional law and other federal laws. And here's just a part of things that our government can legally do right now. So right now Russian government can censor nearly anything, they can take property of citizens and companies, they can close borders, police can check private belongings like phones, letters and so on, they can set curfew, cancel elections, prohibit protests and do many other stuff. But the most important thing is, it might be scalable to the entire country. You know, I deliberately waited for a week before actually recording this video, because I thought, okay, that time we have this big announcement, and during the next week we gotta have much more details and information about that. Maybe some examples of how this martial law is being applied in those 4 regions and in Russia itself, but I think I was kinda wrong about that. There definitely were a lot of news about the martial law's announcement, but then we have kinda silence about it. There are just some random reports about very minor things, and basically that's what we have right now. Now let's have a look how media is covering this topic with ground news. This app and website compiles over 50,000 news sources from all around the world, so you can compare coverage and see the ownership, factuality and political bias of the sources reporting. For example, you can see that 323 sources are reporting on Putin declaring martial law, 68 of those sources are left-leaning, 48 lean right and 107 are center. 12% of these sources are independently owned, 8% are government-owned, and 43% are media conglomerates. But what's really powerful about ground news is that you can see how news outlets around the world are framing this story. For example, Russia Today, a government-owned media outlet, says Putin introduces martial law in former Ukrainian regions. CGTN, a government-owned publication in China, describes them as new regions, while many other high-factuality sources around the world describe areas as illegally annexed regions. I especially like that you can click into each article and read it in full from the original source. To stay informed on issues not only on Russia but all around the world, go to ground.news/Niki Proshin and subscribe for as little as $1 a month, trying to support a small team of media outsiders trying to make news more transparent. Now let's have a look. What does Russian state media tell about military law? Basically, what do regular Russian people see in their news reports?
Угрозы явные, и обстановка требует действий оперативных и на всех уровнях. Военное положение на новых территориях, усиленные меры защиты в соседних регионах, повышенные еще в нескольких, дополнительные полномочия губернаторам и формирование новой структуры специального координационного совета во главе с премьером Михаилом Мишустиным.
Niki, the editor, is here. Could you just appreciate how epic that editing is? It's literally the most epic news report intro I've seen in my life. And could you think, like, why would they do it this way? Maybe they will feel more patriotic after watching this sequence and will better accept the further news.
Больше никаких полумер и неочевидной ответственности. Максимальная концентрация сил и возможности для решения основной задачи – выстоять в противостоянии с коллективным Западом, для чего прежде всего надо одержать решительную победу на украинском театре военных действий. Тотальное противостояние тотальному терроризму киевского режима и его западных кураторов.
Here I paused for a moment, trying to just comprehend what I've just watched. Russian news reporter says about total confrontation to total terrorism while showing how Russian missiles hit a city. At least I tried to do some research and looks like that footage of a warship that is a Russian warship. Next follows a picture of a city hit by missile, and supposedly that is the capital of Ukraine, Kiev. And then we see the explosion right next to regular people.
Режим военного положения вводится в отдельных районах или на всей территории страны в случае агрессии против России или ее непосредственной угрозы. После того, как по итогам референдума освобожденные территории Украины стали частью Российской Федерации, факт агрессии против них, а значит и против России, со стороны Киева при поддержке Вашингтона и Брюсселя очевиден. Этот коллективный враг действительно силен и безжалостен, и не стоит его недооценивать.
It actually feels like that the main message of this news report is not to inform Russian people about the recent changes and how the martial law would affect their life, but rather push the narrative about bad West and good Russia, followed by a confident speech of one of Russian generals who is surely not reading the script.
Это преступный режим, который толкает граждан Украины на смерть, стремится прорвать нашу оборону.
You know, I don't even want to translate that. Later in the news, they talk more about details and different levels of martial law, gradually describing what can local authorities do right now compared what they could not do before the martial law. And you know, I specifically like these guys saying some stuff about the rise of powers of local authorities recently.
И вы прекрасно понимаете, что раньше задавали простые вопросы: какие у меня ресурсы, какие у меня полномочия, могу ли я этим заниматься? Ведь это исключительно дела армейские. Нет, это теперь не только армейские дела. Когда расширяются полномочия, это неплохо.
My goodness, what a report! So they told a lot about how exactly this martial law works in Russia, and by the end of the report they somehow managed to finish the storyline by saying that it's important to be united and to be like one society that works together. I guess Russian propaganda knows what they're doing. Anyways, I want to focus your attention on two things that we heard in this news report. First, the way how they actually applied the martial law, and second, the level of that basic readiness that basically touches the entire territory of Russia. That's such a controversial situation when you might say that these are not territories of Russia, but you, I think, should understand that Russia treats them as a part of country, and in this very context of applying martial law in Russia, those territories are considered to be a part of Russia. It's not what I personally think, it's just what I see in all recent legal documents coming from Russian government. And you might disagree with that and do not accept that, but at the same time these kind of documents and decisions, they affect not only those territories, but the entire population of Russia. Well, and the second thing that I wanted to focus your attention on is the basically entire population of Russia and other territories that stay afar from Ukraine. These subjects of Russian Federation, they are having that basic level of readiness, and so far it does not sound very bad for people who hear about it, just basic level of readiness, alright, and our authorities are very happy to actually push this line that this basic level of readiness is like almost nothing. Like the mayor of Moscow, Sergei Sobyanin, in his Telegram channel he says such stuff like, in current time, right now there is no things, there is no limitations on regular life. Life just goes on as usual. The same narrative we have in other regions of Russia. Basically local authorities say that, oh yes, we have this basic level of readiness, but no, the daily life, like regular life, keeps going on, nothing really changes. And yeah, looks like life in Moscow and life in other subjects of Russia hasn't changed much yet. Right now, many politicians across Russia, they say that nothing really changed with all recent updates, and looks like they really want to deliver this idea that everything is kinda alright, that everything is normal. Maybe that's the reason why since the day the martial law was announced, there are no other big news across Russia in any territories that are staying afar from Ukraine. But I think it's just a matter of time when local authorities and our federal government are gonna use new powers they just recently acquired. Now our authorities say a lot of things, for example, the borders will not be closed and so on, but we all know that before they actually say stuff like there will be no war, there will be no mobilization, there will be no military law in Russia, and here we are right now. Let's see what's gonna happen in the future. Best wishes from Thailand, спасибо and пока.